All right. Well, why don't we start off with phonics? What is phonics?
Well, phonics is when we map speech in print, right? Phonemes and graphemes. We know that our language, the English language, is a morpho-phonemic language. And it's also a deep orthography, which means it's not a one-to-one correspondence between letter sounds and the symbols that represent them. So when we're mapping print to speech and speech to print, we are making that connection or that alphabetic principle, and it's a big PH phonics. So, and also oftentimes when we think about phonics, we think of it as an instructional method and the process of decoding when we come to words.
Yes, and phonics isn't just one approach. There's several different aspects we need to think about when we're talking about phonics. So it's the general heading, but it also has different components. So there are different ways of delivering phonics instruction, and we need to cater our instruction to the needs of the student, right? So when we're talking about classroom-based instruction, if we're looking at the very beginning, we're looking at just teaching those grapheme or letter and phoneme or sound correspondences so they know that T says T, right? So this is a phonics card. You see that the letter T is on the front. And if I flip it over to the back, you'll see the letter T in slashes, and that's to represent the phoneme or the sound that it represents in print. There's also the word top, because often we'll say that there's going to be a word that we're going to use to remind them of the sound, usually at the beginning of the word. So T says T for top, or T, top, depending on how you go about teaching it.
So yes, we're
now
having
when we're talking.
So I was just saying, we're
go
having
ahead.
students make that connection between speech and print and speech. And so as you said, we're giving them oftentimes a keyword or a photo or a cue to help them anchor that as they learn these sound symbol correspondences. And I guess since we're talking about that, that cue, it's really important to have an accurate cue. Oftentimes I visit classrooms and I will see, so when we think about X, it makes the phoneme sound, but oftentimes I'll see a cue card for like xylophone, or maybe for E, the short E sound, eh. I've seen egg, which you really oftentimes hear more of a long A sound, or elephant, which really makes us think about L. So when we're guiding students to make these connections in phonics between print and speech, we want to make sure that if we're cueing them, we're cueing them with accurate representations, because we're asking them to cue on those, over and over and over again. So we want to make sure they're accurate. So that's just one point when you show me that card, that's right away what I thought of, how important those keywords or cues are, and also how important it is to articulate the speech sounds of our language accurately.
Yeah, and of course, choosing words that aren't going to vary depending on dialect or accent. And that's especially important because we come to our classrooms where there are students from a variety of language backgrounds and different speeches. I always think of my grandmother when I'm talking about this, because her family's from Scotland, and you could go down the road to the next town and you'd have no idea what they were saying because of the dialect making the word sound so different.
Certainly in the United States, if you're in the South, like pin and pen, oftentimes they sound the same. So yes, we always need to be thinking about dialect as well. So thanks for bringing that up. Oh, and yes, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I'm teaching the speech sounds to the kids, we often put out these little scissors so the kids know we need to clip our sounds, especially difficult with our stop sounds, like a or a b, right? Sometimes we ba, we don't want to say ba or ga. It's very, there's a saying that schwa happens. And everyone wants to be a schwa because there's no stress. But it is very important. It's one key thing when we're teaching phonemic awareness and phonics. It's absolutely critical to know how to teach the speech sounds. And of course, I will speak for myself. That's not something I learned in college or You know, in all my certifications, it's really, I learned about the speech sounds of the English language through letters. So I'm forever grateful for that because it makes us a stronger and better teacher and certainly a better model for our students.
Yeah, and that's the important thing that I want to highlight to everyone watching this either live or after the fact. Please don't be feeling guilty or upset if this is some of the stuff is new information, because it's not out there in the teacher education programs and even some of the tutor preparation programs. It's things that we have learned through self-study and various methods. It's not in a standard program, and hopefully we will get there so that it is part of it one day, but we're not there yet. So don't be upset and don't beat up yourself. If this is something that you've done in the past, it's more, okay, well, now you know, so let's try and incorporate it. And there's definitely a lot of resources out there that can help you with your pronunciation of the sounds and understanding what the phonemes are and graphemes, understanding the difference between a blend and a digraph, or just the various different things. So obviously we can't cover it in our short conversation, but we're going to do our best and try and point you to some resources to look at in the future.